Welcome to Color Commentary, a podcast where the stories shaping our world are told in black and white first, and then we dig into their deeper meaning in full color. Each week, I bring you the news like this. First, we start with what I call the black and white section, a clear, straight shooting rundown of the facts in the tradition of the greats, Ed Bradley, Walter Cronkite, and the classic voices of journalism. Then we shift into the color commentary section, where I add my own analysis, perspective, and critique. Sometimes it's just me, sometimes I'll have a guest, but the goal is always the same, to tell the truth, to connect the dots, and leave you thinking about what comes next. Let's get into it. Okay. Parents, I need you to hear this. Your child is bringing home B's and C's, maybe even A's. The report card looks good. The teacher says they're doing fine. They're passing their classes and moving on to the next grade. Hell, even getting into the colleges they had on their dream and wish list. But here's what nobody's telling you. Your child might not be reading on grade level. They might not be proficient in math. And the grades, they're hiding the truth. Right now, in California, only 2 out of every 10 black students can read on grade level. 2. That means 8 out of 10 are walking through schools every single day, getting grades that make it look like they're learning when they're not. That's not education. That's a con. That's what I call proficiency illusion, or better yet, grade inflation, which is a really fitting term because we are dealing with massive inflation everywhere in every part of society right now. And if we don't do something about it right now, we're going to lose another generation. Students, middle school, high school, this is for you too. See, I believe in agency. I believe that you have power. And I used to have to navigate these things on my own. And so I'm going to give you that same respect and trust. So students, I need you to do something this week. Something that might make you uncomfortable. Something your teacher might not be ready for. Ask your teacher what grade level you're reading on. Not your class grade, not your GPA, your actual reading proficiency level. If your teacher can't get that information to you within 2 weeks, escalate it. Go to your principal. Loop in your parents or guardian. You deserve to know exactly where you stand because you can't improve what you cannot see. If you're not yet proficient, which is fine. I wasn't either at a lot of times. But if you're not yet proficient, then demand a plan, a real individualized plan to get you there. If you are proficient, ask your teacher what it will take to reach mastery. And if you're already at mastery, it's your turn to help someone else. Be a part of a community, right? You have a duty. So find a peer who's still climbing and support them, tutor them, teach them. And here's the thing, young person. When you tutor and teach others, it actually helps you. It helps you grasp onto that concept even better. That's how we build an agency movement. Students leading students, families leading systems, communities leading schools. Educators, I see you. I know you're working hard. But I also know that 75% of students in our Oakland survey said a teacher had never once discussed whether they were meeting grade level standards. That's got to change. Share the data. Build plans with students, not for them. Be the teacher who tells the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And policymakers, leaders, district administrators, it's time to fund agency. Stop investing in programs that sound good, but don't change outcomes. Start investing in transparency, in data access, in student power, because data should be public, power should be shared, and education should be honest. Now let's talk about why this matters. Here are the facts in black and white. A new report, Black Minds Matter 2025, shows us what many of us already knew. For Black students in California and across the country, but this report focuses on California, outcomes haven't changed much in 10 years. Suspensions have gone down, that's true, but learning hasn't gone up. In Sacramento's San Juan Unified, Only 1 in 5 Black students are reading on grade level. Fewer than 1 in 10 are proficient in math. Even in Elk Grove Unified, the best performing district in the area, only 1 in 3 Black students meet English standards. Now, you'll hear people celebrate the reduced suspensions from 14% to 9% statewide. It's a real shift. But suspensions dropping doesn't mean learning is rising. Stanford researchers found that discipline gaps and achievement gaps are linked. When one grows, the other follows. And when one closes, the other does too. Across the country, Black students are 3.5 times more likely than white students to attend chronically underfunded schools. So let's stop calling this an achievement gap. It's not about achievement. It's about access, opportunity, and design. Systems produce the outcomes they're built to produce. That's the black and white. Now let's talk about what's really going on. Let's add some color. You're listening to Color Commentary with Dr. Cole. I have a few different thoughts on this story. Let's start here. We've been obsessed with grit and Black pain. Ask me how I know. When I was getting in college, that's what I was coached to put into my college essays. And listen, I'm not complaining. That's what I had to do to get in, and I got in. It worked for me, but we got to move beyond it. You see, every decade, the education system repackages the same stories. If students, especially Black students or brown students or poor students or whatever, but if these students just work harder, push longer, and show more resilience, they'll make it. We celebrate grit and perseverance as if they are the solution. But grit and perseverance are survival tools. They're not solutions for broken systems. Grit asks Black children to endure schools that were never designed for them to succeed. Agency asks them to change those schools, and that's the difference. At Energy Converters, the national organization I lead with our headquarters in Oakland, California, it's where I grew up, even though I was born in the Chicago area. I've explained all this before. You know that I lived all over the country by now. Stay with me. But in Oakland, we've seen what agency actually looks like in practice. Our own 2023-24 Oakland report, which was called Demanding Proficiency Over Pageantry, was written by students themselves. We surveyed 353 students from across Oakland. 74% said they believed they were reading on grade level. One more time. 74% said they believed that they were reading on grade level. Almost 60% said they were proficient in math. But when we compared those beliefs with state data and local data, only about 2 in 10 Black and Latino students actually were. Here's this part that stopped me in my tracks. 75% of those same students said a teacher had never once, ever in their life, discussed whether they were meeting grade level standards. Think about that. Just really think about that. That's 3 out of 4 students don't know where they stand. And the system seems comfortable keeping it that way. We call that proficiency illusion. We call that grade inflation. The gap between what grades say and what students actually know. It's when A's and B's look good on paper, but the learning underneath is shallow. It's when a student passes algebra but can't explain a basic equation. It's when we graduate students who can't read at grade level but congratulate them as if they've mastered it all. And then they go to college and they are confident and they sit in that room and then they get a very, very rude awakening. Listen, I graduated with a 383. I got into my college, took those tests, those assessment tests when you start. I was remedial everything. You know what happens when that happens, especially from my generation? You have to take remedial courses. These are courses that are designed to catch you up, but they don't count towards your graduation credits, and you still have to pay for them. Even worse, if you fail them, you get a few times to try, but if you fail them, you get bussed down to the community college level. And what happens is what I saw with a lot of my peers is that a lot of them didn't make it back. In fact, when I got into college, they put all us Black kids in the same room, which I do appreciate. And I appreciate the person that was talking to us because he said something that was profound. It could seem mean, but it was your welcome to college moment. He said, look to your left and look to your right. Out of all three of you, only one statistically will succeed. And that scared the hell out of me. I don't think we should have to scare the hell out of our kids the way that did with me. And it starts at the grade levels. It starts by stopping grade inflation. Because this illusion is dangerous. It's deceit dressed up as achievement. And that's not what we're fighting for. One of our fellows said, I got an A+ in algebra, but if I'm honest, I don't really understand what I'm learning. Another said, good grades don't mean proficiency. They just mean compliance. These are 16-year-olds, by the way. See, when young people can name the game that clearly, you have to decide. Are you going to keep playing it or start changing it? When our fellows in Oakland realized this, they didn't collapse. They organized. They created a survey. They hosted town halls. They met with teachers and parents. They asked for their real data. They took ownership of their education. And they started teaching us something adults have forgotten. That agency isn't a theory. It's a practice. At Energy Converters, every student now goes to their teacher and asks for their actual reading grade level. If they're not proficient, they design a plan to get there with real goals, real deadlines, and real support. Now, if they are proficient, they work towards mastery. And if they're already at mastery, they take on what we call the duty of mastery, to teach and tutor a peer who's still trying to reach that level. That's not just accountability, that's love. That's how we build community power. It's the opposite of grit. Grit says survive. Agency says thrive and bring somebody with you. Now let's talk about the system that we're up against. See, I talk about agency a lot, and people will attack how I talk about agency because they feel like I'm letting the system off the hook. I'm not. The system can get all the smoke, but it tends to be a nameless and faceless entity that everybody can dump their problems in. Nobody is accountable for the system. You see how that works? But let's do some educating on the system. Here's some context and history. This isn't new. In 1954, Brown versus Board of Education promised equal education. But what integration actually meant was that Black children were allowed to enter white institutions. Not that those institutions were ever designed to serve them equally. We desegregated buildings, but we never desegregated power. In fact, what we did do, what Brown versus Board did accomplish, which many do not know, is that it eviscerated the Black teaching force. An evisceration that we still have not recovered from. Shout out to my very good friend, Sharif El-Mekki, who leads the Black male education. I'm messing it up, Sharif. But his job, his sole purpose is to make sure we can rebuild the Black teacher pipeline. 70 years later, we're still chasing a gap created by policy, not performance. Look at the National Assessment of Educational Progress, better known as NAEP. It's what we call the nation's report card. Since the 1990s, the reading scores for Black students have barely moved. Every decade, the same headlines. Black students lag behind peers. Billions of dollars in reforms. Millions of professional development hours. And still, the same outcomes. Why? Because we keep investing in programs instead of people. We reform the system but never shift the power. California has spent more than $90 billion a year on education. But the children farthest from opportunity still see the smallest return. Go with me if you will. Imagine if even a fraction of that funding went to agency, teaching students to read their own data, helping parents understand what proficiency means, and empowering teachers to co-design learning with their students instead of dictating it to them. Or What if we actually started to use this upcoming but ever-present monster that is AI? Right before we went live, me and my producer, Tommy, what's up, Tommy? He's in the back. He don't like being in the show, but I like to bring him in the show. So Tommy, don't edit out me shouting you out right now. But we were just talking about AI. We were just talking about the ways it can be both abused, but also used in positive ways. What if there were AI programs that were built to help students and parents develop the necessary agency where they're not solely dependent on systems that hate them? And yes, I said hate them. I referenced data from 10 years, but go 70 years, go 100 years, okay? All right? It's time for something to change because I don't want another Charles coming 40 years from now making the same arguments in the same cases. But that's the track we're on. You see, agency is accountability with a heartbeat. And I know this personally. I grew up in schools that measured my behavior more than my comprehension. People told me I was gritty. They admired my hustle. But nobody ever showed me the data that could change my direction. Nobody ever said, Charles, here's where you really are. Here's the plan to get you where you need to be. And see, that's why this work matters. But Tommy, and to the people that's listening or watching this podcast, you know, I didn't develop these theories in education. I started my career in social work. And in social work, I had a bunch of different families that I worked with. I specialized in working with foster families and families with children with special needs. And everybody that I worked with was so afraid of data. You know what I did and what made me a successful social worker? I took their chart, I took all their data, and when I met with them, I showed it to them. And we went through it line by line. I said, this is what this system thinks of you. This is what this system doesn't think that this family is going to come back together and be successful. It doesn't have faith in you based on this data. What are we going to do about it? You see, I've always used my skill set from social work to serve me in education. And that's why this work matters. Because social work tends to have a heart in it. Because I know what it feels like to find out too late that you were never given the tools that you needed. And I just don't want that for another generation. Yeah, my friend Chris Stewart, which I reference a lot, and you know, I do it because one, Chris introduced me to Tommy. Tommy and Chris are tight. I'm now getting tight with Tommy. Me and Chris are like brothers. So I want to reference his work. So go check out Citizen Stewart, Christopher Stewart. Chris always has a lot of monikers. He's like Wu-Tang, okay? There's a lot of different names and aliases that my boy Chris goes through. But one thing that Chris has said, and I've told him he should write this book, Chris has always said that Black kids are the new cotton. And what he was saying was there's so much money to be made off of broken Black children and broken Black families. It's almost like the pharmaceutical company, which also makes a lot of money off of broken Black children. That's what's happening. There's so much more money to be made and passed around when your Black kids are struggling. And listen, and this is not just Black. I just talk what I know and what I focus on. I can make the same talk about the brown community. I can make the same talk about Southeast Asian community. I can make the same talk about poor white kids in Appalachia, okay? Don't get caught up on that because the message still cuts through. And what that means is, similar to Fred Hampton, who crossed racial lines when he wanted to do his movement, I think we need what I like to call the agency movement. So what does this movement look like? It looks like students demanding truth. It looks like parents demanding transparency. It looks like teachers becoming partners and not gatekeepers. It looks like communities organizing around data, not waiting for permission to care. We call it the agency movement. We fix the things that are broken. If you feel like the standardized test is too culturally biased, then guess what? Don't just say that for 30 years. Create an alternate version that still measures actual proficiency. Just because I'm Black and grew up poor does not mean I'm afraid of proficiency. It's because I'm Black and grew up poor that proficiency is that much more important. I don't have a safety net to catch me. I'm not part of a family that has money that allows me to graduate from high school and go pal around in Europe for 3 years and find myself and then come back to my father's company. And by the way, if you can do that, this is not a slight. I think that's dope as fuck. But we need an agency movement. And it's not just about better schools. It's about reclaiming our right to know, to decide, and to lead. During times of slavery, man, a slave master could do whatever they wanted to a slave. Whatever they wanted. Anything. Could take their kids and sell them. Could rape them. Murder the father. All this stuff. Break up families on a daily basis. They could do all that except teach them how to read. You know why? Because Frederick Douglass once wrote, a man who taught himself how to read, by the way, who stole his education, he wrote that anybody that was literate was not fit to be a slave. And now I'm talking to you about 2 and 3 and 3 out of 10 Black kids being able to read on grade level. This is a bigger issue than you know. Don't let these people lull you to sleep. But I'm not here to just bitch about the problem. I'm giving you solutions. I'm giving you things that you can actually do. How do I know you can do it? Because I'm doing it right now with 15-year-olds. 15-year-olds are going to their teachers and saying, what is my reading score? Don't tell me just the grade. What grade level am I reading on? I'm behind? Why didn't you tell me? But you know what? No worries. How do I get caught up? Give me a plan. And if those teachers don't do that for those kids, their job is to then go to that principal, because principals want good teachers. That's the job. And what I've learned from those 15 and 16-year-olds is when students learn how to ask about their proficiency data, they're learning how to ask for justice. They're learning how to advocate for themselves, and they're not asking you for a handout. They're asking for information which leads to plans that they can actually work and improve upon. If a teacher tells that student that they're 3 grade levels behind, but then they say, but if you read these books after school and during the summer and check in with me and you do this and you do that, we'll get you caught up. That's called communal education. That's called education with a heart. That's called agentic education that is leading with love for those that you are supposed to be educating, because you know without these fundamental skills, we are not setting them up to live a fruitful life. We're setting them up to be paupers in their own cities. Ask me how I know that. Because I grew up in Oakland, California. When I was a kid there, it was a chocolate city. And now Black people are a minority there. And the Black people that are still there are scraping to get by. And the jobs and all the tech companies and the new people that come in don't reflect those people that grew up like I did on 54th and Gaskill in North Oakland, where somebody got shot and killed right in front of my stoop. That's how I know. This shit is life and death. I don't play games about charter or traditional or private. I don't care about any system. Wherever our kids are, we need to be there. And if a family wants to choose a charter school because it gives them agency or it makes them feel better or they think they're going to learn more, then so be it. That's their business. And if a parent and family decide they want to go to the legacy school that's been there for 120 years because it's the last Black traditional high school standing, and that's the pride that they got in their city, regardless of what the proficiency looks like, then so what? It's their right. And if somebody says, I got some money for you that you can put into this account and you can pick a private school that you want to go to that gives you a chance and it makes you feel like you got a fighting chance, then who am I to stand in the way? Don't tell me about government subsidies and handouts when we have to subsidize farming just for that to survive in this country. There's countries around the world where people are starving. Don't talk to me about government bailouts when the GI Bill is what built the middle class. Oh, and by the way, Black soldiers that came home from those wars were iced out of the process. Don't talk to me about teachers' unions when I've been personally attacked by them, by the way, and I'm a firm believer and supporter of unions in general. But don't tell me about teachers' unions that I've met with where proficiency is not on the radar. where they've called charter schools demons and terrible for the society until that charter school decided to unionize so they could get those dues. Now that charter school is no longer evil. Is that what you're telling me? Don't play on my face. I grew up around hustlers and pimps, man. I grew up around drug addicts and dope fiends and prostitutes. I know when somebody's trying to get over. I know when somebody's playing and preying on your goodwill. I've seen it. I know when somebody is asking me for money because they say they want food, but they really want to go get beer. You know what you do then? Because when you do care about those homeless people, which I was, somebody that grew up in shelters, somebody that stood in soup lines, every time I see somebody homeless, I offer to buy them food. If they want the food, I got you. And you know what? And I appreciate this. Some of them say, I really don't want that food. I really just want the money because I want to get high. I understand that. So don't feel bad about asking for proficiency for your child. They started inflating grades because the Office of Civil Rights been on their ass about black kids being suspended and not graduating. So they said, then just give these kids a better grade and get them the hell out of this school and move them forward. Now you got all these kids that are getting into colleges and can't keep up. You think it's an accident that colleges are losing its value while the price and cost continue to rise? If you keep going down this road, there will be no college class. It'll be gone because students are starting to see these entities as not valuable. Take it from somebody who still owes 6 figures, and I love my degrees. I think that going to college saved my life. I really, truly believe if I didn't go to college, I would not be here. I know I wouldn't be a doctor. I know I wouldn't have the earning potential I have. That's why this agency movement is needed, not yesterday, but 50 years ago. So start now. And teachers, stop hiding behind the data. Stop doing this thing where 3 or 4 of your students excel and go off and become incredible Einsteins. You take credit for them. Those are your kids. You did that. That's your teaching. But the other 25 students in that classroom that failed, oh, that's the system's failure. Teachers, when you share that data honestly, you build real trust. When a parent demands it, they exercise in power. This is how agency becomes culture. It's how we move from grit to growth, from resilience to responsibility, from surviving schools to shaping it. And when that happens, when agency becomes the expectation instead of the exception, then and only then will we begin to see real change. So what now? Here's where we start. If you're a student, ask your teacher what grade level you're reading on. If they can't get that information to you in 2 weeks, escalate it to the principal. Bring it to your parents. If you're not proficient, demand an individualized plan to get you there. And if you are proficient, then you reach for mastery. And once you reach mastery, or if you already are there, and congratulations, because many of you are fucking brilliant, then take on the duty of mastery. Help someone else rise. Listen to what I'm saying. There is a duty that comes with excellence. If you are blessed with the ability to achieve mastery, you have a duty to share that with somebody who's not there. If they reject you, so be it. But you have to do your duty. Parents, ask your child's school for their proficiency data. Don't settle for generalities like they're doing fine. Ask for proof. Ask for clarity. Get up there. If you don't like the stuff you don't have to just only look at the standardized tests. Your child's English teacher should be able to assess what their reading level is. If not, you don't have a quality teacher in that classroom. And if you're a teacher, commit to transparency. Share the data. The data is your friend. The data is your sword. The data is your hug. Use it to be your conversation starter. Use it as the tool that makes teaching move from being a job to a vocation. The same way a priest or a pastor or an imam wants to save souls, you should want to save brains. You should want to save intellect. It should be your vocation. Make plans with your students, not for them. Teach them how an agency works in their life. And if you're a policymaker, start funding agency. Fund programs that build power, not dependency. Because data should be public, power should be shared, and education should be honest. Let me stop yelling at y'all and get to my closing. I'm very passionate about this, if you can't tell. But a decade of the same results, a century of it, it means the system is functioning exactly as it's designed. It means that somebody is profiting off of your kids not being proficient. It means that somebody is profiting off of telling you that all your little black boys have ADHD. So give them these drugs. And some people do have ADHD, and some people do need those drugs, but not all those that have been diagnosed. I promise you. And if you want to know just how much of a difference it makes, go see if you can find out how much the drug industry makes off of children. Go see how many people got Ferraris because your kids can't read. Listen, man, the only way to end the proficiency illusion is to build an agency movement. One student, one family, one classroom at a time. We've done grits. We've done resilience. Now it's time for agency. I am Dr. Charles Cole III, not only the host of this podcast, but the founder and executive director of Energy Converters for 8 years and counting. I don't know how much longer we'll be around because, quite frankly, it's really, really difficult to fundraise. And I run a pretty cheap shop. I've graduated thousands of black kids. I've trained thousands of parents with one more staff and a bunch of people with good hearts that I pay part-time wages. And that's the reality. While I see some of my peers, many of which that I've written things for, supported in their own grant finding endeavors, continue to get millions and millions of dollars, and ain't nobody better for it but them. And I'm not being a hater. I'm not naming names. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm just saying, we give this stuff away for free, but you know. Thanks for listening to Color Commentary with Dr. Cole. We love to hear from you. So drop us an email at colorcommentarypod@gmail.com. Once again, that is colorcommentarypod, P-O-D, @gmail.com. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the show. Leave us a 5-star rating, share it on social media, and join us every Thursday for more Color Commentary with Dr. Peace.